So just so you know, the meeting is being recorded, and I hope that's okay with everybody. That way people can use this resource down the road. But as I was saying, my name is Liz Torres, and I've had the privilege to get to know and work with our Indian Ed department. They're an amazing partner, and different teachers within our district have been willing to come in and share their knowledge, beautiful knowledge and culture with us. And I appreciate each of you for being here. Those of you who came in late, I will ensure that all of you are noted as far as attendance. And I'd like to introduce our guest, and with a huge thank you and appreciation, Mr. John Williams. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand it over to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you. Yeah, I started to get nervous here when I saw all these people, plus that required attendance business that I can hear going on in the background, and everyone getting credit for attending. So, but I do appreciate you picking this session. I don't know what your options were, but when they asked me to do this, I said yes before I thought about what I would present on. But you know, I usually don't have a problem talking about my students and in my class. But the one thing that that I felt like I could share, that I live by on a daily basis, is the Native American values. You know, to help watch our students grow, you know, and not be too judgmental, like A, B, C, D, you know, whatnot. We wanted to let them sort of chart their progress, and then and we would get some sort of an indication by, you know, student responses before and after, you know, at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, whatever, you know. Sometimes we do in the middle, and but I found myself using that chart as much to look at myself as to look at my students. That's basically the essence of what I wanted to talk about, to share today, is that this chart we can use to judge, I hate to use that word judge, but to look at our own personal growth and classroom environment. Okay. Now, one of the things I wanted to say is, I'll just say a little bit about myself, is that, you know, my dad is full-blood Sioux, okay, from South Dakota, and my mom is mostly Anglo, but she did have Chippewa blood in her, and she's from Wisconsin. So actually, my parents are from up north, but they raised me on the Navajo Indian reservation, you know, and so one of the things I always pride myself in to this day is that, you know, I grew up on the Navajo Indian reservation my whole entire life. You know, I moved there when I was 2 years old, and my first experiences and my first, you know, memories is you know, Tuba City, Arizona, and I didn't leave there until I graduated from high school, kindergarten through 12th grade. I was in those classrooms with those young kids being I experienced like a kind of like a hostile environment for our students, you know. And so when I think about the way I run my class today, and the way in the environment that I went to school in, it's night and day. You know, it was almost like an adversarial situation. It was us versus the school half the time, you know, to avoid, because they were being disciplining us over the use of the language. And so, and I was caught in the between, because I didn't know, all I knew was English. But I tell you what, I sided with the local people. I immersed myself. I identify with the local people. And so anyhow, that's a little bit of my background. I went to teach at the same high school that I graduated from. That was one heck of a challenge, because I wasn't the greatest student. And then all of a sudden I'm a teacher at the high school where I graduated from. So, but I had to set high standards for myself because, it was a small community and I didn't want to be known as the joke, the goofball that can't teach and students run all over him. So I had to come in prepared, assertive, and I had the whole community looking over my shoulders, and it worked out. So anyhow, I just, and one of the things I always tell my students, it's okay to boast a little bit. It's okay to, to let a little bit out, because that's just the way you determine who you are, and who you're talking with. It's almost like clans with the Navajo people. You always go into your clans so that you really know who you're talking to and how to talk to people. So one of the things that I wanted to say is, I wanted to, and I don't even know how many people are in here. There's a lot of people in this room, but well, not that many. But one of the things I try to do to my students every day is I have them greet me in their traditional language every day, and I thank them for the greeting. And it's mandatory. And I mean, and it sounds so beautiful. And I experienced that this morning already. I listened to 8 little voices talk to me in their traditional language, and I thanked them. So uh, so anyhow, and it goes back to that chart. I can point right exactly where in that chart my brain was going, but it's not analytical. It's natural. That's the way. Anyhow, let's look at that chart. I'm going to do a screen share. I know I jump around a little bit, and I'm going to make this about 30 minutes and then just kind of open it up for a little bit. Yeah, and everyone will have access to this chart. It's Indian Ed. I don't know how the other. I know I live by it. We were involved together creating this chart, and I have it right in the beginning of. I don't have one of my notebooks handy, but the first thing is in the thing they open up is this chart. But anyhow, let me share this chart because it's nothing. Let me see, entire screen window. I'm just gonna go for the whole darn thing. I'm not really good at this. Let's see. Let me see. How come it won't let me? Oh, here we go. Well, it might take me a little bit to click out of some of these windows. Let's see.
John, you have the best audience, so don't sweat it because they do this every day. There's no judgment here.
Okay. Well, anyhow, this is the chart that we created at Indian Ed. It was one of the first things that we did in this new movement towards indigenizing our whole way of looking at our students and sort of plotting growth. But the one thing is that it's sometimes people have a hard time even at this first step. And if they could get past that, that would be an A. So this isn't like a D, C, B, A. It's just a way for students to look at themselves, and where they want to be. But we do know that one of the things is that we want to all move towards the center, which is wisdom, And but anyhow, one of the questions that I ask my students at the beginning of the year is, to sort of come up with their own definition and some sort of a behavior that reflects, where they're at, and but it becomes more than that. It becomes like a living document, just like today, when we ran through the class, there was this whole idea of being prepared, they know where they fall on this chart. But anyhow, one of the things that I really, and I know you're probably looking around trying to read it and everything. I have to try and think like if I'm you guys. One of the things is that, this is a really good one that I use on a daily basis. First of all, I don't really ask my students to do anything that that I can't somewhat do myself. I mean, like a coach, they may not be able to throw the football quite as good, but they can get out there and throw it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, what I try and, live by is, um, getting to a point where you just want to share and giving students an opportunity to demonstrate what they've learned. And I just had a really powerful presentation this morning. A lot happened in 20 little minutes of my class this morning. And well, no, it was that presentation was last week, and the values slide knocked me flat. I mean, I have students that sometimes they blow me away. I'm not kidding you. They blow me away. And I'm like, dang, we weren't thinking this heavy duty when I was in high school. We were barely surviving. But anyhow, what was I gonna? Let me see. What was I gonna take this? Oh, well, today in that values slide, and I'm just kind of talking through this, and I'm gonna open this up here in a second, so it involves everybody, but in that so I didn't really prompt my students too much. I just wanted to see where I gave them some information on values, and they did look at this chart. But one of the things that's important is this idea of family. Yeah, remember? And so I pulled this out. I said to my students, and this is a way to bring your students in. See what I mean? I know you guys know this. I'm already talking to people that know all about this stuff anyhow. And so I told my students, I said, you know what? I need to do a presentation. And and then I brought out that values slide that one of my students gave me, and then I said, family, where does it go on this chart? Either that or our chart is invalid. See, and that for a while there, I thought, okay, well, family's not on here. Where does it go? And my students answered that today. They said belonging. And I said, well, is it more than that even? And it went over to independent, like that, in the traditional way, and it is Navajo government, uncles have certain roles and responsibilities. You know what I mean? So then this whole idea of taking care of each other and then respond, and it just goes, on and on. When uncles teach, aunties teach, and sharing. So anyhow, what I'm saying is that this chart is a living document, and we look at it about 4 times a year, and I think about it on a daily basis. One of the things I'm always trying to do is I know that the title of this was creating a classroom environment, you know. And honestly, I thought, okay, so that means, well, I set up my room. I'm thinking about when they walk in and they look around, and the first thing they do is say, this is cool. I'm okay here now. But it's way, beyond that in terms of it's almost like, you know, I had a group that was so tight last year before the virus came. A year ago this time, I had a group that was so tight. I had a girl that stretched out the class. And these are like, it wasn't a goofy idea. You come in, take a breath, and then my student would stand up and say, everyone stand up. And we're like, what? And they go, stand up, just stand up straight. And they're like, dang, I didn't think about that first thing in the morning. And stand up straight. So everyone's like, stand up. And then, okay, move your head to the left. And it was like, whoa. And it did some magic to the class. That's that whole idea of health and fitness and just getting your body. So I mean, that's how far this chart can go. And you'd think it would mess up my class by doing something like that, but they got so involved. They were ready to take on the world by the time, you give them that, uh, if you give them that opportunity, one last thing is one of the things that I've been recently doing is including music into my program, and it's like, okay, where does that go in here? Better go in here, you know. It better go in here, and one of the things that, by me introducing music is that everything is just a natural progression, but a lot of times they've never heard their voices in a singing format before, and you wouldn't believe the happiness that allowing your students to do something crazy like sing, not the whole class, but just to get this whole togetherness down. But anyhow, you're probably thinking I'm a complete nut, and I know my students do at times too when I go on and on, but really this is just what I wanted to share, in terms of the native values. And I know I'm moving my little chart around so that you guys can see it. I'm still on screen share, but yeah, when my students walk in, this whole thing is in progress. This whole thing is in progress. It's like swirling. And then even like when they do a presentation, this comes micro, and we start looking at how well their presentation was organized, or where does organization, because one of the rubric items is organization, structure. Where's structure in here? It's in here. But anyhow, I'm going to do screen share. Let me see.
John, I have a couple of questions for you. One is do we have access to that chart? Teachers are asking if they would be able to get a copy of that.
I'll send you it.
Okay, great.
And then you can
send it out. I'll send it to all the participants. Sure, that'd be great. Yeah. My other question, I know other people have questions, but how have you transitioned some of what you're doing now in this virtual setting?
You mean like using this chart and everything in this virtual setting? Is that what you're saying?
Even just like, you're talking about music or movement, and it sounds like you really are strong at building community. And I know that's a struggle for everybody, is engaging their students. Just curious, because I know you said your students helped you with this, with this presentation, and what, I'm just curious what you're doing.
Well, yeah, it's been kind of a struggle, especially when you're trying to predict how long it's going to last, and you're saying, okay, well, it might not be, we might be able to jump back in, but I try to carry it on exactly, in my own little ways. And like I said today, one of the things is I take roll, and I have them introduce themselves, and it sounds so great. It's unbelievable, and it's all right at the beginning, and I thank them and I thank them and I thank them, every time. So, but I tried the music thing already in the fall virtually, and it was ridiculous because it was just, I felt like it was just like, I tried to put myself on that end, and I was like telling my students, okay, now I don't want anyone to be listening to this now. If hopefully you're in a private setting, and of course the whole family's probably sitting in the room, watching this, getting a kick out of it, And I do have that. I know I have whole families sometimes sitting there, waiting for that tune that I may or may not do with the students, and it's important. See that? Even that, if I can have a grandma or a mom sitting in the background watching over their kid's shoulder during their class, that's it. Multi-generational learning right there, not separating. So anyhow, we always welcome. I know it. I can hear it because I can hear it even with their mics off. I can hear people talking back and forth in the background, but it's exactly what I want. Everyone there.
Thanks, John. Are there any other questions for John?
So, John, this is Elakari, and I was wondering, you had a PDF of that. Is that PDF available on the Indian Education website? I I did a quick search for it and I wasn't able to find it. Do you have access to the link?
Yeah, I'll send it to Karen. But also, that's a good point, because maybe we'll update the website. Thank you for letting us know. I'll pass that on to the person that updates the website, because that should be there. I mean, I use it. It's a legitimate document.
Yeah.
We've done the presentation before 15 years ago, and we had a lot of people requesting that and saying they're going to take it home. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Darn it, I almost forgot it. You can create your own. You can come in with a blank document at the beginning, and just drill your students and say, let's come up with 4 values as a class, and and just create it. And you'll know that they all intertwine. That would be a nice little activity. If your class could come up with 4 values to live by and their own way of, showing progress, and then the goal is the center. So that is a cool little activity. You definitely can get, your class together and bring them together by creating their own chart without, and then have this as a backup maybe or something. And that's, yeah. But we'll get that. We'll update. Thank you for letting us know that. We'll make sure that we have that as a click. Click away, but yeah, to make it so that you don't have something that says Indian Ed on the top. You can, this is all government property, I think. No copyrights on this, you know what I mean? And so you can just make your own, and have your students create, but it has to be big and so they can see it every day, and not intimidating, to where it's not like, oh, you got a D today. It's just where you're at today. So, having a bad day. Okay, yeah, that's it. If there's no other questions, appreciate everyone, and have fun in your other little workshops and stuff. Who are you guys exactly? Are you like lead teachers or just interested teachers? Who are you guys exactly?
So we're TLFs, teacher leader facilitators. We bring professional development to our teachers, and some of us are involved in particular in cultural linguistically responsive teaching and equity in schools, which is why we're interested in using some of this material to respond to our diverse students, and also the Yazi Martinez case, and making sure that our students have really good, fair, equal access in our schools. And our job is to bring that back to teachers in our buildings.
Thank you for clarifying that. I kind of knew that, but I just wanted to make sure, in all grades, like kindergarten through, so you, okay. This chart.
John, are you able to see the chat?
Let me see.
Because what I was thinking is maybe everyone could put their name and their location, just so John has an idea of the range of who's in the room, high school, middle school, elementary school, and then just across the city. It would be kind of a nice thing to see who's here with us.
Yeah, there you go. In fact, we should have started this. I'm not perfect. I mean, I told I was this should have been a reflection of that chart from beginning to end. You know what I mean? But we're finally getting it before you guys leave. That's at least, important, I mean, you capture before they walk out of the room, But yeah.
This is a hard venue, John. You're doing a great job. We appreciate you being here. And this is what I love, is that there's so many people representing the entire district at different levels. So your information is being spread across and hopefully touching many school sites. And these teacher leaders go back and share this information with their staff and try to implement the things that they gather from you. So we really appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge and your time. Is there anybody else who has any other questions?
I do.
Okay, great.
Hi, this is Melissa Mao. I'm from Volcano Vista High School, but John, I'm actually from Bloomfield, New Mexico. I grew up there on the edge of the Navajo reservation. Say probably 85% of my best friends were Navajo. One of the things that I learned growing up that I thought was a insecurity issue was not looking my elders in the eye. And that was something that I was taught by my friends, that it was disrespectful. And it took me a long time to realize that it came from growing up with my friends from the Navajo reservation, that it was disrespectful to look people in the eye. Is that correct?
Well,
Expectation of look at me when I'm talking to you.
yeah, well, that's a tough one. No, you don't want to stare people down.
Right.
They'll think, like, golly, what are they trying to do? Go to the back of my brain or something, But anyhow, I tend to do that. I don't know if it's just I grew up there, so I tend to have and it just, I don't know. I mean, I've heard of that before. Like, you're not supposed to, but we just don't. Kind of. But we also know enough to where, if you're always looking down at someone that is expecting you to look at them, you look at them.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be able to judge both ways in this world, But in the old way, yeah, and it's less intimidating.
Right.
Yeah. But there's a lot of that, and that's one of those things, that little, sensitivity issue that could be in the back of your brains when working with Native students. But the other thing I want to say is the diversity of tribes is enormous. You have some that could be totally okay. There's some that, will shake your hand. There's some that won't shake your hand. There's some that shake your hand hard. One of the things, and Melissa, you might know this from growing up, is when you shake a traditional an elder's hand, it's almost a touch, right?
Yes, it has to be it was very gentle. It was.
Yeah, there's no grabbing,
It was a gentle, just slow, very nice.
Just a touch.
Yes.
Little things like that, you got to kind of adjust, but but then if you go through life like that, you'll get your hand hurt, especially by a military person. They'll come up and they'll shake your hand, and they're like, oh man, not used to that, So yeah, you be able to just put your hand in at certain times, and other times you just so yeah.
Yeah. It took a while to figure out the nuances and the differences, because growing up with it, that was just part of school. But I will tell you, I grew up in Bloomfield in the 70s, and in Bloomfield in the 70s, like you were saying, confrontational, antagonistic with the Navajo students. There was a Disstar program at the time up in Bloomfield, and the Navajo students were immersed in a room. My older sister was in one of them where it was English only. And the intent was to teach the students coming in off the reservation English. It didn't work. All of the white kids are Navajo. So in a way, it was very funny in that the intent was to teach the Navajo kids the white culture, the English language, and it turned around that the Navajo kids were teaching everybody else their culture and their language.
That's cool. That's a nice little not observation, but yeah, I can understand what you're saying, because my mom and dad spoke English, and when my mom said that when I went to school, the first day of school, I came back with a Navajo accent. She said, she goes, dang, John, you went to one day of school and you came back with a Navajo accent.
Yes.
I can do. I wish I could speak Navajo, but at least I can. I started going the other way right off the bat, with
right.
the people,
When I was growing up in Bloomfield, you could tell the kids when we would do like tri-city competitions or whatever, a lot of the kids from Bloomfield would speak with the Navajo accent, and people would see Bloomfield, aren't you? Yeah, how did you know?
Okay, that's cool. I think the people that settled Tuba City, where I grew up, were there were always people around there, Paiutes and different groups, but then the Mormons set up Tuba City, and then eventually what happened is that, and this is a little history for everybody, is that they got so-called permission to set up a community in Tuba City. It was on the Navajo reservation, and they set up the whole town. And then all of a sudden, the government comes in and says, "Wait, you're on Navajo land." And then they said, "Well, this chief told us we can set up Tuba City here." Then they had orchards and reservoir systems and water systems going, and the government said, "Well, you got to leave." And so it was a big old traumatic event where they had I heard they ended up in Bloomfield.
Probably.
I heard they ended up in Bloomfield.
Definitely.
But yeah, appreciate everyone, Brian and Tierra, Brian hanging in there. Yeah.
John, could I just ask, there was a question in the chat about the chart, and I see that Daisy has responded to it. But you said the chart actually was created, you think, about over 10 years ago by the Indian Education Department. And so I just wanted to clarify that that chart is reflective of Native culture throughout New Mexico. It's not specific to the Navajo, et cetera. If you could just clarify what you know about the background of the chart and the creation of that, that would be very helpful.
I think it was about 15 years ago, and it is definitely neutral. It is that's one thing I can say, and that's why we could use it with everybody. All races. It's legit and valid because that is one thing we want. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because even in New Mexico, there's such a diversity of tribes. And that's one thing I know. I see my boss, Daisy Thompson here, Dr. Thompson, and she's right in the thick of things as far as how to work with the Pueblo people and how to work with Apache people and how to work with the Navajo people and how to work with San Felipe versus Zia. I mean, if you want an authority on working with the diverse tribes, she's in the thick of it. So, but that chart, back to what your statement, that chart, and in review, if you could take back, how a beginning activity is blank out those things and make your own chart with your classes, so it doesn't say Indianette at the top. So, yeah. Thank you for bringing that. The chart is universal. I mean, it can use it with anybody.
Dr. Thompson, thank you so much for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself at all?
Good morning, everyone. I am Daisy Thompson, and I'm the Senior Director of Indian Ed. And I have been there in the same position, in the same place for, I think, 15 or 16 years now. And I was really happy to see that John is presenting and talking about the values, because this was put together after much discussion with the Indian Ed teachers way back about 15 years ago. And we started talking about it because we needed something to hook our students in. And now our students, this is taught in all of our classrooms. And so the students are now teaching. We found out that over the years, they have taught their families, their parents, when they see that they are straying from the values. But these 4 values that you see on the chart, those are the core values, and it represents all people. All people. It has been tried in people in Africa and other countries, other nations, and it has been tried with people who are experiencing mental health issues, behavioral issues. It doesn't matter their nationality. If applied well, the way it's supposed to, it makes people feel like they belong and that they are a worthy human being. So it instills that worthiness, that value of human beings back into people. It is not it is not just for a specific tribe or a specific people, but I believe it originated from indigenous people around the world, and it's been found that it is utilized and also in Australia. So it is effective and it works with our kids. And so what we did from our department is that we selected the 4 values. There are so much more that could be added, but we concentrated on these 4 values. And of course, the main goal is to go towards the center, like John said, because everybody seeks wisdom in life. And the 4 colors on the chart represents people all over the world.
There you go. I forgot to mention that.
Those are the colors of people. Yeah. And the 4 core values and the 4 directions.
There we go.
And Dr. Thompson, John said that he would be able to maybe send me a PDF of that chart so we can share with our participants. Is that something we can do?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone
Okay.
here. Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here today. We appreciate you guys taking your time to be here with John. And thank you, John, so much. You're amazing. You guys are always a wealth of knowledge, and it's such a great way to start your day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Good to see you.